Yanika, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Let me just adjust things. Just adjust the volume. All right. I wonder where the others are. Let's wait for a few minutes. Thank you for always attending class. Do you guys have a test or something coming up or a major requirement?
I think so, sir. Like a lot, from what I know po, a lot of us have papers due lang by the end of the week.
I see. All right. Yeah. I mean, that's fine. What can we do? All right. Sige. We can start in a while. No? Okay, there's two of you. Very good. At least, hi, Bricks.
Hi sir, good evening po.
Evening. Yes, thank you for joining. Sige, I don't want to waste your time. No? So, bahala na lang sila. I'll just go on. No? Sorry na lang if I'll keep asking just the two of you for your thoughts. But feel free no, not to answer if you are shy or you don't want to recite. Sige. All right, so a few announcements. I'm recording this naman, so if they want to refer, it's fine. No? So same, no? So cover all the modules cover module 4 from March 19 to April 30. So until the end of the month. No? You can share the load again no, if you want in terms of reading. No? And then there's no synchronous class on April 12th next week because that's obviously Holy Week. No? And then as I mentioned, no, but I was thinking, no, I will devote one of the upcoming sessions, either April 27 or May 4, to consultations no, for assignment too. No? So I'll share I've done it. I've created a Google Doc um, file no, for groups to sign up. No? So I'll have 20-25 minute slots. No? There's only four lang naman no, for your class. No? So I'll devote either April 27 or May 4. No? The deadline is May 7. No? So I was thinking, initially kasi better kung April 27. No? But in terms of timing kasi we'll finish module 4 by after Holy Week, no? The week after Holy Week. So timing sana before module 5. But it, the groups might not be prepared yet, no? Kasi May 7 pa yung deadline and many groups, no? You know naman, us, no? We like to push things at the last minute, no? Especially if this class is not a major class naman. So, what they call this? So, uh, I'm thinking May 4 na lang, no? Of course, May 4 and May 7, you still have 3 days, no? So, I did the poll last time, no? Together with my other class. Um, the choice was April 26 or May 3, no? So, kayo, what do you guys think? Kayong dalawa lang. What do you think the class would prefer? Closer to the deadline? Kasi di ba April 27, groups might not even know what they want to write for yet. So, what do you guys think? What I'll just go with what you guys think would be better. Tingin nyo.
For me, sir, I feel like April 27 would be better kasi given nga na May 7 is the deadline, I feel like May 4 is too clutch to make the edits then, if ever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was a bit surprised nga last night, no, that the other class preferred May 3. Overwhelmingly, no, there were 15 showed up, so only one said April 26. Bricks, you agree?
Yes sir, I agree with April 27 po because
Okay.
as Anika said, yeah,
So
wala
we'll
pang
do
time.
April 27 then. So I'll do that. Sige, thank you. All right. So easy na. Okay. Just for both of you, and you can feel free to share with your classmates, no? Especially for homework. What do you call this? Let me change this na lang kasi I let me stop sharing. I'll just edit the slide na lang to note that April 27 na lang no, will be devoted kasi I post naman the deck eh. On April 27 will be devoted to that. All right, so let me share it again. Okay. Ayan. All right. So class period on April 27, deadline is May 7. All right. A few tips, no? Just in, Miguel, were you about to say something? Wala naman. And thanks for joining. Anyway, for those of you who are just joining, maybe you had difficulty finding the link. So again, as I mentioned, we'll devote April 27 to an optional consultation for assignment 2. I'll share via announcements the sign up sheet. First come, first serve yun. So I'll do it in 25 minute time blocks, time slots. First come, first serve na lang. I'll do that tonight or tomorrow. So a good resource for all of you, especially for homework too, and then for general information, interest. Arrancada Philippines is an initiative of the American Chamber of Commerce. They're not part of the embassy, obviously. They are a business association of American companies. And there are actually Filipino companies who are members of AmCham as well. They're not exclusive, but predominantly American companies. So they have this. They're heavy on policy advocacy, trying to get government to reform certain laws, like to liberalize foreign investment, etc., as we studied in Module 3. So a good resource, one of the things they do is they have a website called Arrancada Philippines. They try to curate some of the good articles, business and economic news. So you can go to their website, investphilippines.info/Arrancada. There's a search function there on the top right. Like for example, you're looking for resources on Create, on Train, or on rice tarification, on PPPs, BOTs, etc. That will be a useful resource. Of course, I would encourage you to consult other resources as well, not just AmCham. But they try to curate. And speaking of curation, they also have a daily news clip service. So what they do, they scour through both local and international news outlets for the best or more relevant business and economic news. It's free to register, so they send a daily digest around noon time, noonish, or sometimes late morning or early afternoon. It's called Arrancada News Clips. So you can go to that page, go to this page, investphilippines.info Arrancada/Arrancada News Clips, and you can subscribe for free. So I find it useful because I don't have time to go through all the newspapers. So they do a good job of curating the best news articles in economic and business news articles. So very, very useful service. So it's free. Sign up if you're really interested in reading, being up to date on economic and business news. All right, give me 1 sec. I'll just get my water bottle. I forgot. I get thirsty kasi when I am. Wait lang. 1 minute. Kailangan I just get my water bottle. All right. Sige. So any questions so far? Wala naman siguro. Okay. Population and demography. This is the third topic on Module 4. In Module 4. So it keeps getting shorter. That's the good news. So I don't think we'll go past 7 p.m. tonight. This one is shorter than the first two topics in Module 4. Agriculture, agrarian reform, that was long. Public finance, taxation, fiscal stuff, that was a bit long as well. No, this one is shorter, no? And definitely the last one, no, for module 5, no? Module 4 is the shortest one. No? The role of private sector in development. No? But I find that very interesting. I hope most of you will find that interesting. No? We'll try to have a more interactive exercise after Holy Week during that time. All right, so let's dive into population and demography. Alrighty, everyone, when you say demography, no, it's just a sort of a fancy term for population studies, no? Demographic trend, population trends, etc., etc. All right, one of the basic things that population people talk about or cover, no, when they're starting to discuss um, population growth, population trends, is Malthusian theory. Malthus. There was this guy named Malthus. I forgot the first name. I always forget the first name. What is it all about? If you guys have covered it or if you've heard about it, what is it all about? What is Malthusian theory all about? What did Malthus say? And was he correct? What was he famous for? Anyone?
I'm not sure po if tama yung pagkakaintindi ko, but based on the video, parang his point was like population would grow. It can even be exponential, but our food supply or like our resources will just stay at a limited point or it won't grow at the same rate. So in a sense na parang our resources won't be able to sustain the population we have right now. And I think it's been proven naman over the past couple of decades that na this isn't necessarily true, especially with the advancements in technology.
So perfect. Actually, that was what I was gonna say. So thank you for explaining it to the class. So Malthusian theory was all about, he was sort of a doomsayer or a fearmonger, no, at that time. No? I mean, this was what 50 or more years ago. No? Sabi, oh my God, the population is getting bigger. No, what about our food supply? No, we're growing exponentially, although in the recent decades, medyo nag-slow down naman yung population growth. But he was saying, oh, what about our food supply? It might not keep up, no, because population is growing exponentially. So sabi nga, there you will reach a point where patay, kulang. But yes, you're right, no, Anika. Population studies experts have largely debunked this, no, because of technological process. Now you have greater yielding agri seeds, better farming machine techniques, no, and now they're even growing alternative meat, no, in labs, no. So talagang and that will be the next generation food commodity, no, yung grown in the lab. So talagang hindi tayo maubusan. No? So it's not, if you really think about it, it's not really the supply in absolute terms. It's really about people having enough incomes or being able to access or get the right quantity and quality of food. You don't have to go very far. You open up your Facebook, you go to a mall now na puro unli, puro buffet. So if you have a buffet, it doesn't mean there's shortage. It means unequal lang yung distribution and access. No? And remember, there are 4 pillars of food security. No? And the important thing, it's not just the availability, but even if it's available, whether people are actually getting enough of it and the right kind and quality of food. So it's largely been debunked. So don't believe that. So just some key trends, no. Some of the data, no, are a bit outdated na, no, kasi wala pa yung 2020 highlights, no. Yeah, because the last time they did it was 2020. Every 10 years yung mandate, no, yung requirement. So we're more than 111 million na, no. So Popcom has, and if you go to the website of Popcom, we're now more than 111 million. No? When I was in college, no, we were less than 100. Mga 90 plus, or not even 90 at that time. Siguro. So annual growth rate, which is good, no, has actually declined to 1.7%. As you would expect, no, the most populous areas, let me just get my laser pointer. the most populous areas are NCR, Metro Manila, and the surrounding areas. So Bulacan, etc., Pampanga, no, Central Luzon, no, and Calabar zone, of course, Laguna, Cavite, Batangas area, Region 4A with the highest populations. And that's highly correlated with economic productivity. We are not going to cover that in class, no, but if you, I wanted to cover urban development and urban trends, no. Agglomeration, no, or collection of people, no, urbanity is largely correlated with higher economic productivity, no. So for your additional information, 2/3 of the country's GDP, the share, no, the 2/3 of the country's GDP are coming from these three regions. 65, 66, 67%, no, of share of GDP are provided by these three regions. So we really need to decongest development. We've now crossed the tipping point, as the urban economists like to say it. More than 50% now of our population are residing in urban areas. I think we crossed that around 2020, 2015 or so. Matagal na. Not fairly recently. We have a very young population. Youth account for roughly 20%. No? So youth, depends how you define it. No? Most define it between 15 to 30 or some even up to 35. So 7 years na ako wala doon kung 35. Kung 30, medyo malayo na. Feeling young pa din. A third below, no, 15. And more than 60% are working age. So the bulk of the population is young and working age, 60%. So they have the capacity, and this is an important point when we get to the next section. Majority are of working age. So theoretically, if they have the skills, they can contribute to the economy. And they can, fend for themselves. So the source of the population count, the official source, is the Census of Population and Housing. Again, this is a census. And by its very name, by its definition, the definition of a census, you cover all households. It's not just a sampling. Hindi lang yan parang Pulse Asia, which came out today, presidential poll. Yan, 2,400 lang. No, or FICE. FICE is 40, 50,000 lang, or APIS. This one, all the 100 million, all the 20 plus million households, they go there to count. And I've actually filled out the form for our house in 2020 during the pandemic. Nag-hybrid sila. Some of them, they really went face-to-face. Some of them, pag subdivision or village, they just ask the homeowners association to distribute the forms. So hybrid. It's by law it should be done every 10 years, but more recently they've done it in every 5 years. Mas maganda yan because mas kita mo yung trends. So you adjust the forecast. And you need the budget, the population figures for government, for example, and how many services, how would you budget, diba? For the government services. So kailangan mo rin ng population projections. The good thing with the Census of Population and Housing, they cover, it's not just asking people how many you are. There are certain indicators in the APIS or CBMS that they also include, like the type of housing. Is it made of makeshift materials? The water, water, what do you call this? Water source. So as an aside, when I was still working for government back in 2001 to NAPSI, we used the census to identify, kasi maganda sa census, kasi nga census siya, the data that PSA now, dati NSCB or NSO, the data they come out with, you can go up to the municipal or barangay level. So we had data on municipalities, the proportion of, in terms of municipalities, all the municipalities, the proportion of people with access to safe or potable water or not. So based on that, we came up with a prioritization list of who were considered waterless. So maganda yan. If you have time and the data set is available, you can play around and you can go all the way down to the municipal barangay level. All right, a key issue when we're talking about population statistics or population studies is demographic dividend. Can anyone tell me what demographic dividend is all about? Anyone other than Anika? If you guys have covered this or know this. Anyone? Your understanding lang of what it is. It's on Canvas, yes, but let me just check if you guys are digesting it. Sige. Anyone, including Anika, whoever, Bricks, sige. Yeah, Bricks, you usually recite naman. Sige, go ahead, Bricks. Huwag ka mahiya.
Sir, is it yung ano po, in how I understand it, it's parang the development or growth that comes from yung change po in the age structure of a certain population po. For example, if our population is parang more on mas marami yung youth, tapos when the time comes na magiging working age lahat ng youth na yon, parang may boost in economic growth po because of that.
Yeah, so it's you're right, no? I mean it's the effect dividend, no? Dividend kasi it means it's sort of ano yan, parang corporation, they provide dividends. It's the wealth or economic impact or economic what do you call this? It's basically an addition, a good beneficial impact to the economy, no? Kasi dividend. So as a result of the changing demographic, no? Changing structure of the population. No? Pag structure kasi parang if you, for example, compare to Japan, iba yung kanila, hindi pyramid sa kanila. Yung bulge is actually at the top, no? Mas maraming elderly, no? So sa atin hindi. It's the bulk of the population is youth and working class. So let's take this slowly, no? Because this, I think this is a very important concept. No? And for me, actually, I don't necessarily subscribe to it. It's not automatic. No? There are important factors to take into account before you can say that a country will be reaping demographic dividends. Okay, let's take this slowly. So yun nga, as Bricks mentioned and as I re-emphasize, it's supposed to be an economic growth as a result of change in a country's population structure. They're saying, the Philippines has reached a demographic sweet spot. Magkakaroon na kayo ng demographic dividend. It's good, no? Kasi they premise that on, again, a large number of workers, no? The majority are working age. And, fertility rates are going down. So let's take it one step at a time. So change in country's population structure. So first, mortality is going down, which means more people can continue working, which is good for the economy, diba? Second, fertility rates are going down. It's also, if you think about it, there are less dependents. From a micro and a macro perspective, less mouths to feed. Ganun na lang, to put it bluntly, less mouths to feed. So that's also good for households. Greater disposable income, they can spend more on both needs and wants, hindi lang needs, no? From a macro perspective, the government can also makatipid, no? They can save on some basic services, pwedeng i-devote to, let's say, infrastructure, other spending. No? So theoretically, okay yun, no? Because the structure is changing, less dependents, and more people working, no? And then plus, combined with the fact that the bulk, again, no, going back to this slide, the bulk of the population are working age. We have a large workforce. And the theory there is, yun na nga, ang ganda, no? You have people earning money, and these people, let's say couples or breadwinners, no, They have less dependence, so they have more disposable income. They can now spend some more, no, and that will boost the economy. Diba? That's the theory behind it. No? They keep on buying things, go to the mall, and then it keeps businesses happy. They can employ more, and then that's a good cycle. No? That's a demographic dividend, supposedly. So yun nga, because the large workforce, kasi nga, lower fertility rates, kasi nung panahon ng parents ko, for example, my mom, for example, there were 6 of them, no, magkakapatid. My mother-in-law, there were 10 of them, magkakapatid. Now it's down to 2, 3, 4, 5 at most. Medyo malaki na yung 5 these days. No? You'll be shocked if it's more than 5. Because so less mouths to feed, and even for government, from a macro perspective, no, the government, for one, 2 things, no, less people to rely on government. And second, if more people are working, no, larger workforce, no, they're less dependent on government. Plus, these guys, they spend more kasi nga less emphasis on needs kasi lower fertility leads to lower dependency. The important concept, no, forget anything about population trends and population studies. The important thing, which I'll emphasize in the succeeding slides, is all about dependency. But the more dependence you have in a household or in a country, the worse off you will be. The more any increase in population growth, no, the more that it will not be good for the country or for the household. Kasi more mouths to feed, more burden. So dependency is the key here. Now my problem here when people say, oh, the Philippines will reach a demographic dividend. For me, possibly, in theory, yes. But I have a problem there. Okay yun, mortality, less dependence. Fertility rates are going down. That's good, no? Pero yes, you have 60% of the workforce, 60% of the population working age, but that requires, no, and that's a big if, no? That requires that the bulk of the population are indeed working or are indeed productive. Kasi 60% working age. Pero are they really productive? Are they really working? That's one. Second, what kinds of jobs? Are they menial jobs or really high-income jobs? But let's look at the statistics. Youth unemployment is actually high, 13%. So 15 and above. Kasi by law, pwede na magtrabaho 15 and above. It's actually twice the national unemployment rate. So that's bad for the present and the future. Diba? So instead of them, sige, mamaya na, no? And 22% of the youth, no, a few years ago, no, were not in employment. Hindi na nga sila employed, no? They're not in school or they're not getting additional training from, let's say, TESDA or so, no? That's 4.4 million, no? And saan sila sasalalay? Either their parents, who might probably also not have a lot of money, or government. So the problem is, in theory, yes. But the problem is, if many of these 60%, no, are not even working, even though they're of working age already, no, they become dependents as well. So in theory, you have changing population, and then the workforce is the labor force is going up. Dependency ratio dapat goes down. But no, what if they're not actually, but many are actually, or a substantial share are not actually productive? Then the dependency ratio doesn't really go down that much. So for me, yes, in theory, if you have that population structure, and then births are going down and deaths are going down, in theory, dapat yes, you would expect good economic prosperity. But the problem is, for a country like ours, you saw in the Marikina, Saguday, and San Remigio examples, no, educational attainment tapers as they reach high school. So what do you expect them to be in the future? Yes, they can be employed, but what kinds of jobs? So the quality of jobs, is it first, do they have jobs? The second, what quality of jobs are we talking about? So hindi, this will not happen if, and that goes back to human capital. Our point in module 3, no? Which is a very important point that Harold and Dumar left out. Because if they're not in school, they did not have good education, they did not finish school, they will be dependents. So on a micro and macro perspective, that's not good. It will not boost the household income or the country's income. Diba? So yun ang problema. So yun ako parang sinasabi na this is the demographic sweet spot. Yes, but I will argue if the bulk of those who you expect to contribute to the economy are actually contributing to the economy, or maybe they're just a drag. Kasi vicious cycle yan, no? Itong, for example, the youth who are not employed or not in school, what will they end up working in what fields, no? Or in what kinds of jobs will they be having in the future? Medyo ano lang, very menial blue collar type. And what about their kids? They might only have one kid or two kids, but one or two kids lang. Pero, di ba, hindi pa rin sila maginhawa. Going back to our NEDA ambition, hindi maginhawa na buhay. So that's a question mark for me. But in theory, yes, the more, if the population structure changes, less and then bigger working age population, definitely you'll see that is at least a good base to have a demographic dividend, but it's not automatic. That's what I'm saying. And more on dependency, no? And you'll see this, no? Ironically, so it's not just a matter of, the Philippines has, diba, parang if you think about it, are we too many in the Philippines, 111, or are we not? The answer is not. It can go either way, no? In absolute terms, hindi. So you have to check, no? The different incomes, no? Again, it boils down to dependency and manageability, no? The problem in the Philippines is not so much the total population. It's how many kids and how large are the families in terms of the different income classes. And ironically, those who have fewer resources have larger family sizes. Thus, there is that greater dependency burden. So kita nyo, yun nga, no, the poor have on average 6 members, no, 4 kids. And it goes down as, so di ba, baliktad dapat, those who can afford, they opt to have fewer kids, no, 2 or 3 lang. Sakto lang para comfortable. But those, no, in the rural countryside, no, sabi nga nila, there's a reason for that kasi some of the or many of the families engaged in agriculture, they would also want many kids para tumulong sa farm, for example. But in the urban areas, kind of similar, no, to help probably in their small business or so. So it's not so much the absolute population count. It's really the family sizes of the different income classes. Kasi dapat on a micro and macro level, those who can afford, those who cannot afford, should have fewer kids, no? Or matemper man lang yan. So this is just basically the same as this. No? This is just a dependency ratio. No? So the number of dependents versus the number of breadwinners dito. No? So sa poor, no, on average, talagang more than 100% yung kanilang dependency burden. So I got this from a PIDS journal by si Jose Ramon Albert, whom you read in module 2. Si Toots, we call him Toots. One of the best statisticians in the country. Okay. So the next question there is, sir, paano yun? Should the government go the way of China, impose a 1 or 2 child policy limit or cap? Ganun ba dapat? Hindi, because we're a democracy, that's one. Diba? Parang hindi pwede yun kasi that's basic human right, diba? You leave it up to the couples to decide on how many kids they want. So the question is, so what do you do? So this is a very interesting thing, no, that they found out. No? So they're saying, let's see first, no. Let's see first, no. What can we do? No? Let's go deeper into the statistics. No? Maybe we'll ask the families, ilan ba talaga gusto ninyo? Do poor families, no, more recent years, no, do poor or rich families really want this number of kids, or nagkataon lang, or because they don't have access to or are not knowledgeable in terms of modern family planning methods, no? Kasi the traditional ones, that doesn't work. Um, Maganda na, di ba? On average, no, 3 na lang yung fertility rate on average. No? So 3 kids per family. That's the national average. Pero again, you look here, no, iba-iba. Iba-iba yung average. No? Here, so what we're saying now here is, what if we just try to support, and I'll discuss this more later, no, when we go through government's policies, no, and trusts, no, and this is a good point, no, for the RH group, no, if any of the 4 of you are in that group, no, this is a very important concept. No? So they found out na there is a gap, no. Forget about this, no. Ito lang naman, they were correlating kasi alam niyo naman, no, there's high correlation between income, your wealth, no, whether you're rich, poor, or sakto lang, and your education attainment. Of course, obviously, the poor families, you would expect the education attainment would be low, no? Lower. No? So just don't mind this na lang. They were proving a point, no, na parang those who finished only up to elementary had higher kids. Focus on the wealth, no? Wealth quintile. No? So they found out, interestingly, no, there's a significant or substantial difference between what medyo iba to, no? These are wealth quintile, parang poorest 20%, the next 20%. So iba to than this one. This is divided into 7 naman, 7 categories. Sorry kung confusing because these come from different data sets. No? So they found that, no, yung lowest kasi dito, that's the poorest, pinaka-poor 20%. If you add both, no, it's the poorest 40%. So second will be the second poorest 20%. So they found that, no, actually, the poorest 20%, no, on average, they have 5.2 kids or 5 kids na lang. Pero, if you ask them, they actually only want, on average, 3 kids. So imagine you know, that's 2 kids. No? Imagine what that will contribute to their, or how that will affect their income or their lives. No? If they had fewer kids, mas manageable siguro. So it goes down, both go down as you go, as incomes rise. So ito, may difference pa rin. No? Almost 4 kids, the second poorest 20%, no? They end up having 4 kids. Ito, 2.5 lang on average is what they want. Their desired family, their desired number of kids, etc., etc. So mas malapit yung the richest one. So they were saying, oh, di ganito na lang, no? And that's why they had the RH law, no? And part of it really, and you'll see later in terms of population trust, no? So let's just ano na lang, let's just find a way where we can, no? Kasi nga, ironically, those of your resources have larger family sizes. Let's just help families, especially the poorer ones, meet their desired family size. And that will actually have huge impacts in their lives. Mas manageable, mas konti yung mouths to feed. So yun. So try to, and yun nga, and if you look closely, no, so it's a function of wealth and education and access. No? So kulang sa education, so the tendency is either they're shy or they just don't know, no? They won't try to find out the modern family planning methods, no? Itong richer ones, or they don't have access to, no? Ayaw ko pumunta sa barangay just to get contraceptives or pills or whatnot, no? Pero the richest ones, no? The difference is very small, no? Because they have the education, they know, no, they're knowledgeable. Second, they have access to, they don't have to go to the barangay for the cheaper contraceptives, or they think it's cheaper or less quality. They can buy, they can go to a drugstore and spend for it. So yeah. So that's the important point. No? So ito, to address this, no, on a micro level. So government's trust now, and this is true globally. I think this is a trust of population agencies to manage it better. It's not control. It's help families achieve their desired family size. Kasi yun pala, they actually want fewer kids. So yun na lang. So it's good for on a micro and macro level. Kasi on a macro level, rapid population growth, especially among those who are not able to afford many kids, plenty of kids, that will impede economic growth because one, they will have a harder time contributing the poorer ones to the economy. And then on a macro level, they become a drag to government, to the country kasi they create more dependency. So government has to keep providing for them instead of providing for other types of expenditure. Napag-aralan nyo yan, basic economics. There's always a trade-off, butter and guns. Remember that? So if you want to produce more butter at the expense of guns, ito naman, hindi. Instead of me devoting my to modern infrastructure, for example, no, I have to increase my budget for 4Ps. Something like that. And it puts pressure on employment. No, especially kung hindi nga sila nakapagtapos ng schooling, all the more that it puts pressure on employment because how many lang naman yung minimum wage jobs vis-a-vis the number of people who really need a job. And similar to point number 1, it puts pressures on social services. And lastly, food security on a macro level. We don't really have to, but it's still on absolute terms. If the more the population gets bigger on the macro level, the more government has to figure out food security. Do we import more? Do we try to entice farmers to grow more? What do we do? So may pressure then on that, on a macro level. And there's a special issue, and this is one of your discussion boards, and I saw that I haven't read them yet, this part, but I saw that some students have already answered this in the discussion board. I won't discuss this in depth because again, it's part of your discussion boards. It's an alarming statistic. This is pre-pandemic. Children aged 10 to 14, not even 15 to 19. Age 10 to 14. Imagine a 10-year-old girl. I just can't imagine it. Well, scientifically, I think pwede naman. So 10 to 14 years old giving birth every week. 40 kids. It becomes problematic. So what's the problem here? Anyone? What's the problem here? And this becomes a ticking time bomb. What's the problem here? Anyone? What's wrong with this? Not morally. I'm not talking about morality here, but from an economic point of view, what's wrong here? What's the problem here? Yes, Briggs.
Sir, yung this age group is still dependent. So, if magkakaanak sila, yung person na dinedependan nila nadadagdagan ng dependents.
Precisely. So, they add another dependent. So, instead of, let's say, instead of, let's say, yung nanay or yung tatay, they're working hard, you keep adding na naman. You add another dependent because the dependent has produced a dependent. Plus, that might disrupt the studies, etc., the life of that woman and the guy who got the girl pregnant. Kasi magsa-stop na schooling or something. Alam niyo naman, may social stigma sometimes. Although I'm happy that that's slowly, being passé, yung stigma, which is good. Di dapat mahiya. Of course, kamali, but again, it will disrupt their lives. So they are already dependents, and they all the more that they themselves, the one who got pregnant or the guy, all the more that they might become more dependent on their parents kasi nga nakabuntis. So vicious cycle. So it again, the concept of population, it always boils down to manageability and dependence. That's the key word when you're talking about population studies. So what do you think happened during COVID? No, and I included this in Canvas. Wala ako nitong material na to last semester. So what do you think happened during COVID? Pre-pandemic, population growth was going down, 1.6, no? Teenage pregnancy was going up. What do you think happened during COVID in terms of population trends? What do you guys think? Ano kaya? What do you guys think? Anyone? What do you guys think? Guess lang. Sige, Anika, then Francis. Go ahead.
Sir, probably the growth rate just slowed down considering the conditions we have with the restrictions and all that.
Okay. Francis?
Same as Anika po, parang nag-slow down po talaga yung growth rate. May growth rate po pero napaka-late po compared sa previous.
Yeah. Correct. Correct. You guys are correct. It slowed down. We still grew kasi you'd expect naman the population to grow kasi nga mortality rates are going down. So you guys are correct. It was record breaking. We had the slowest population rise in 75 years. Slowest. 0.3% growth lang. That's really uncalled for, out of the ordinary. Surprising. They were pre-pandemic, no? Kasi yun nga, every 5 years they take the population count, no, through the census. It was at the end of 2021, it was 2 million less than originally forecasted. So why? No, yun nga, you already mentioned it, no? So two things that of course influence population counts. No? One is deaths and births. So two things, no? Deaths and births. There were excess deaths because of COVID. It was the third leading cause of deaths in 2021. At least the first 10 months, yun ang statistics ng PAPCO. And there were less births. So more deaths, less births, obviously. So the population will not expand as much. Why? There were postponement of marriages. Some people parang, sige, pandemic, let's just postpone this. No, one. Second, no, you hear stories na there were more sexual activities, but people were probably not prepared, no, to be pregnant, to have a kid, no, kasi they were undergoing medyo the pandemic. I'm sure some of you struggled mentally as well, no, your emotional well-being, no, 2 years, no. But you had some psychological and well-being challenges, so it's not good for couples. And then, of course, no, in terms of, and this is what you guys were saying, mobility restrictions, no, especially for those who are not married, no, 13% reduction in adolescent pregnancy and 31% drop, no, in teenage births. Kasi nga, mobility, di ba? For the longest time, you guys, no, well, most of you are adults, but maybe when you started the pandemic, you were not even 18 or kaka-18 lang. So, most adolescents, no, less than 18 years old, they were barred from even leaving their homes or going places. But the problem is, again, there was a good question last night, no, from my econ class, no, because sir, should we treat these statistics as outliers? Yes, they are outliers, no, kasi it wasn't a normal period the last 2 years. No? So again, we might see upticks again in 2022. Meron tayong, di ba, revenge travel, revenge eating, revenge shopping, revenge whatever. You might see revenge whatever. Di ba? Kasi na-postpone nga yung marriage, etc. So you might have an uptick, no? So baka bumawi. So any indicators, population, GDP, and whatnot, no, during the pandemic, you should always have a caveat that they're extraordinary. They're outliers. Iba sila. So yun. So we might see an uptick again in 2022 and beyond. Kasi the restrictions, less restrictions na here. Diba? So, yun lang. So, one of the last slides, I think this is the last slide. So, I promise you before 7 will be done. So what's government doing? Apart from the RH law, no? And I think the RH law is aligned to some of these thrusts. No? So, aligned to the PDP goal, no? The maginhawa pillar. No? There are 3 objectives. No? And this is actually a good introduction for all of you in terms of a logical representation of the things you will do leading to outcomes. Kasi in Module 5, I hope you'll find that useful. No? We'll be doing something similar, no? Like a logical framework. No? A representation and thinking through logically how you want to meet objectives, what kinds of outputs, activities you will do to meet certain things. So this is a good introduction for you guys. No? So when you try to achieve things, no, so first you want to see what outcomes or objectives you want to see. And the lower 3 things here are the what will you do to achieve those things, the activities you will do. So government wants that couples and individuals are able to achieve their desired number and spacing of children. So again, back to our point, not controlling, but helping them achieve their desired family sizes. So more access to contraceptives, more training, more what they call orientation, briefings, etc. And making it less of a stigma, for example. Kasi may stigma pa rin, especially in rural areas. Second, government wants to reduce or really minimize the adolescent births. Because for the most part, these are unintended pregnancies. I don't think any of you, for example, any of well, we only have Anika here. It's all guys, no, except Anika. I don't think Anika and other women would want to get pregnant. No? Sorry, I'm using you as an example. Would want to get pregnant at a young age, no? Before 20, no? Especially these days. Ngayon nga, women, no, my wife, no, we got married. She's younger than me. We got married when she was 32, and she gave birth 33. So ganon. No? So parang it's not ideal. So usually unintended yun. And ito na lang, they're saying na hopefully all the different institutions are able to integrate family planning, contraception, etc. to their programs. No? So integration, better integration. So yun, sinasama na sa 4Ps, for example, no? If you're familiar with the conditional cash transfer program, which is called 4Ps. So ito, at the lower row here, no, we call it or row, or for lack of a better term, the lower boxes na lang. These are what government is or planning to do. Medyo natenga lang nung pandemic. Of course, it's hard to implement during the pandemic. So ito, it's really full implementation of the RH law, which some of you are covering, no, for assignment 2. Yun na, capacity building, advocacy, etc., etc. So these are the things that you do so that you meet this. And these are the things that you do to meet this. So adolescent health, no, mga orientation, etc., maintaining advocacies, etc., etc., IEC materials, etc. Uso sa government yan, yung communicating it to the youth, etc. But to be honest, they haven't really cracked the code yet. No, what makes it, how to really influence the youth to, it's not influencing the youth to abstain, no, but of course abstinence is still obviously the best way not to get pregnant, no? Or to have unintended pregnancies. But the problem is how do you do that? So I don't think they haven't cracked the code, no? In terms of influencing kids to engage less in risky behavior that may lead to unintended pregnancies. And then yun nga, influencing, and POPCOM is the lead agency here, influencing other agencies to try to integrate in their programs, no, family planning orientation or encouraging family planning for couples. So, and yeah, yun. So that's in a nutshell government's thrusts. And we're done. And I don't want to cover the RH law kasi it's part of your so for the RH law, guys, no, if any of you are in that group, so feel free And same goes with the other topics. Now, feel free to pick up certain points from the different topics in Module 4. That's the point of Module 4. Now, we're discussing topics and you have actual laws, no, that align with the topics we're learning. So feel free to pick up certain concepts that we're learning in Module 4 and use that in your paper. And more. All right, any questions? Any questions? All right. Again, many thanks to the four of you. I see the same group of people. Really, thank you for your patience. And I really hope you guys are finding some of the things we're talking about useful. So, all right. Many thanks. I'll see you. Have a good Holy Week. Take a break, and pray if you are religious or even if not. No, so use the time well. Or just rest and relax. All right? Or if you want, you can study. Bahala kaya. All right? Have a good dinner. Have a good break. See you guys in 2 weeks.
Sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Sir.